Science, in its pursuit of understanding the collective mind, observes how the human brain behaves in groups. Recent neuroscience studies reveal that, when we're in sync with others, our brains can literally mirror each other's activity. It's as if an invisible connection forms between us, allowing thoughts and emotions to flow from one person to another, creating a sort of mental harmony that transcends individual minds. One notable example is the concept of wisdom of the crowd. In decision-making situations, groups can sometimes reach conclusions more accurate than those of individual experts. Imagine a crowd making collective guesses in sports predictions or market trends. The collective intelligence seems innately powerful, as if the collective mind is primed to solve complex problems that individuals might fail to tackle alone. But does this synchronization guarantee truth? Science also shows that groupthink can lead to error in many cases. When everyone starts thinking alike, alternative viewpoints and critical questioning get lost. This phenomenon, known as groupthink, can push groups to make flawed decisions, where consensus overrides logic and reason. In these cases, the collective mind can be dangerous, blinding us to possibilities outside the dominant view. Other studies analyze the emotional synchronization between people sharing intense experiences. In collaborative activities, such as sports or music performances, participants' brains can align to the rhythm and emotional tone of the moment, creating an intense and unique sense of connection. This phenomenon is often seen among musicians performing together, whose brain activity patterns sync with each other and the music's flow. Thus, science presents a paradox. The collective mind can be both wise and illusory. While the group's power can generate accurate solutions, it can also lead us astray. This duality raises a crucial question. Is there an absolute truth within the collective mind, or is it merely a reflection of the opinions surrounding us? This scientific uncertainty paves the way for us to explore how philosophy views this intriguing question. Philosophy has long questioned what truth is and whether it can be shared among minds. Plato, for instance, proposed the idea of universal truths, concepts that exist in a realm beyond our own and are somehow accessible to all. Could it be that the collective mind allows us to tap into these truths, linking us to a knowledge greater than any individual perspective? Hegel, on the other hand, saw the development of the collective mind as a historical process. For him, truth emerges from the continuous interaction of ideas, cultures, and generations. This concept, known as the absolute spirit, suggests that truth is collectively constructed over time, created and refined by humanity, rather than discovered. In this view, the collective mind becomes like a river, accumulating the ideas of everyone who has contributed to it over the ages. Existentialism, however, challenges the notion of a shared or universal truth. For philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre, truth is subjective, something each individual must create in their own existence. From this perspective, the collective mind might be a trap, a refuge where individuals escape the responsibility of creating their own meaning. Could seeking a shared truth actually distance us from the freedom to define ourselves? This tension between collective thought and individual truth lies at the heart of philosophy. On one hand, there's the idea that truth can be collective and evolving, the result of a historical spirit that transcends generations. On the other, there's the view that each person must construct their own truth, uniquely interpreting reality for themselves. Philosophy then urges us to ask, are we truly capturing a truth within the collective mind, or merely finding comfort in something that feels larger than ourselves? By questioning shared truth, philosophy exposes the fragility of depending on a collective consciousness. If no single objective truth exists, could the collective mind be just a blend of personal perceptions and interpretations? With this philosophical lens in place, we turn now to how religions approach the idea and whether they see the collective mind as a path to truth. In many religions and spiritual traditions, the collective mind is viewed as a sacred bond that unites individuals to a higher purpose. In Christianity, for example, the concept of the church represents a community of faith where believers form the body of Christ. Here, truth isn't individual but shared, and the collective mind is seen as a path to divine truth and spiritual unity. In Islam, the concept of the Ummah describes the community of believers, where each individual is part of an interconnected whole. For Muslims, the Ummah provides a sense of belonging and collective truth, guided by sacred teachings that transcend personal limits. This notion reinforces the idea that, united, we can live harmoniously in truth and reach something beyond what individuality alone can offer. In Eastern traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism, the collective mind plays a fundamental role. In Hinduism, the concept of Atman suggests that each person possesses a divine essence connected to Brahman, the universal soul. This connection between the individual and the universal creates unity, where everyone is part of a cosmic whole, and the collective mind becomes an expression of this interconnectedness. In Buddhism, interdependence is essential for understanding reality. The belief that nothing exists independently and that everything is interconnected strengthens the significance of the collective mind. The self is an illusion, and truth is accessible only when one recognizes that consciousness is shared. Buddhism thus invites individuals to transcend the ego and find truth within a collective, interconnected existence. For these religions, the collective mind is not merely a social construct, but a spiritual reality that transcends the physical world. It offers a way to see truth through unity, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. This view prompts us to wonder, by joining our minds and spirits, are we drawing closer to truth? Religious traditions, then, offer an optimistic, hopeful view of the collective mind, treating it as a bridge to the sacred. With this spiritual perspective, we're ready to explore how these ideas intersect with science and philosophy in the quest for a shared truth. We've reached the point where science, philosophy, and religion intersect in the quest to understand the truth of the collective mind. Each of these fields contributes a unique piece to the puzzle, but can they together form a more complete picture? Modern science, particularly in neuroscience and quantum physics, hints that the collective mind may be a real phenomenon, though challenging to quantify. Meanwhile, philosophy and religion question whether this truth could ever be absolute, or if it's just a comforting social construct. Neuroscience reveals that as we interact, our brains tend to synchronize. Groups sharing experiences can begin to display similar patterns of brain activity, as though a temporary shared consciousness arises among them. In intense or emotionally charged situations, this synchronization can create a powerful sense of unity. While this may represent a practical form of truth, where our minds align, it doesn't necessarily imply a transcendent or universal truth. At the same time, quantum physics raises questions about the interconnectedness of particles, suggesting that the separateness of individuals might be an illusion. Phenomena like quantum entanglement challenge the idea that each of us exists in isolation. Could the collective mind be a manifestation of this quantum interconnectedness? This scientific viewpoint intriguingly mirrors spiritual and philosophical ideas about unity and shared truth. Philosophy, however, continues to question what truth really means. For some philosophers, the collective mind may be a valuable source of wisdom. For others, it could be an artificial construct that limits personal freedom. Rather than pursuing a shared truth, some argue that meaning can only be found individually, where each person interprets reality in their own unique way. This stance contrasts with both science and religion, highlighting philosophy's emphasis on intellectual autonomy. Religion, meanwhile, embraces the collective mind as a spiritual path to transcend individuality and access a universal truth. But can this spiritual truth align with scientific perspectives? Perhaps the truth of the collective mind isn't about facts, but about connection, empathy, and unity. Religion reminds us that even without an absolute truth, the unity and purpose we find within a collective can still provide meaning. So, what is the collective mind? Is it a reflection of interconnected brain functions, a historical and cultural construct, or a spiritual truth? The convergence of science, philosophy, and religion suggests that perhaps the truth of the collective mind isn't singular. Instead, it offers multiple layers of meaning, with each perspective contributing to a richer and more complex understanding of what it means to share consciousness. This fusion of science, philosophy, and religion encourages us to reflect on how these three views shape our understanding. Each provides a distinct insight, a perspective that, combined with the others, forms something greater. With this in mind, we're left to ask, does the collective mind offer us a truth, or simply a way to connect and find shared meaning in our existence? After exploring science, philosophy, and religion, one essential question remains. Does the collective mind offer a real truth, or is it merely a comforting illusion? Science points to a tangible synchronization between us, a connection that can be observed but might be limited to our interactions. Philosophy warns of the risks of relying too heavily on groupthink, suggesting that truth could be a personal construction. Religion, meanwhile, embraces this collectivity, seeing it as a path to something sacred and transcendent. Perhaps the truth of the collective mind lies not in answering what is real, but in how we feel when we share thoughts, experiences, and purposes. When enough people believe in or share an idea, it gains life and the power to shape cultures, change the world. Thus, the truth may not lie in the objective existence of the collective mind, but in its ability to unite us and give meaning to our journey together. In the end, perhaps the collective mind isn't a source of absolute answers, but a way to deepen our human experience. Through this connection, we find something larger than our doubts and uncertainties, a reminder that, even in an indifferent universe, we still have one another. After all, the value of the collective mind may not be in an objective truth, but in the creation of a world where we can all find meaning